All right, alrighty. So, greetings, everybody, tonight. What's going on? This your girl, Tiffany. I'm here live in effect. And so, hold on. Okay, my bad. So, tonight I'm going to be dealing with a topic about Umoja Karamu and Swahili, the language which is spoken. So, uh, to get started, Umoja Karamu is a holiday. It's an African American holiday that was founded in 1971 in Philadelphia by Dr. Edward Sims Jr. Okay, and is usually celebrated on the last Sunday of November. So this past Sunday, which was November the 22nd, that's when the holiday Umoja Karamu was celebrated. All right. So I'm going to get into the history behind that. And I'm going to talk a little bit of history about Swahili. All right. So, because Swahili is a very common African language that is pretty much spoken mainly in the eastern part of Africa, but is very common with the African American holidays too, as far as the naming is concerned. So, I want to go ahead and get started on I want to go ahead and get started. So I got some information right here. All right, so let's see what Wiki is talking about because Wiki is everybody's go-to website. Let's see what Wiki has to say. So we're going to look at the history of Umoja Karamu, meaning Unity Feast in Swahili, is an African American celebration begun in 1971 by Dr. Edward Sims Jr., celebrated in a manner similar to Thanksgiving. Umoja Karamu is held on the fourth Sunday in November. Its purpose is to instill solidarity, Black values, and appreciation of Black heritage into Black families. Prayer, libation to honor ancestors, historical readings, and feast mark observance. The celebration is based on 5 periods of African American life, each represented by a color to be used in ceremony. The first one is prior to slavery. The color Black represents Black families in Africa before slavery. 2, in slavery, the color white symbolized the scatter of Black families during slavery. 3, upon emancipation, the color red marks Blacks' liberation from slavery. 4, struggle for liberation, the color green significance the struggle for civil rights and equality. And 5, looking to the future, the color gold or orange points celebrants to the hope for the future. So, as you can see, this holiday has some similarities to Thanksgiving and Kwanzaa. Okay. So you don't hear much about this celebration because it's not often celebrated in the mainstream. It's mostly celebrated within the African community center or African centered communities where they have events going on, and then you may hear about it in some Black churches. They celebrate it as well. But as you can see, the holiday has a lot of similarity to Kwanzaa. So you just think of a Kwanzaa as Thanksgiving combined together. That's what Umoja Karamu is. Okay. So again, it's not very popular. But let's go ahead and continue on with the information, please. All right. The home observance of Umoja Karamu could proceed according to the following order: prayer, libation, okay, which is liquid poured in honor of the family's ancestors, period presentation, reading the narratives, playing the music, and passing the food, feast, Community observance are very similar with the following addition. First, a place to honor the ancestors should be set at the table, and after the ceremony is food and drink should be taken outside to be shared with nature. Two, any elders present should share words of advice and encouragement at the conclusion of the program. Three, unused food should be distributed to the poor and homeless in the community. During the ceremony, participants read narratives about each time period as music indicative of the period is played. The five different colors are present in the foods served in the feast. Currently, Umoja Karamu is celebrated in homes and churches in several states. Umoja Karamu is said to be growing in popularity. All right. So that's the history. So what I want to do is I want to show an image to give an example of how this holiday is celebrated. So let me see if I can find something. All right, so right here, this is a picture of how the flag looks. So as you can see, the black flag represents before invasion. The white flag represents the transatlantic slave trade. The red flag represents the liberation struggle. And the green flag represents stand for civil rights. And the gold or the yellow flag stand for hope for our future bright. So that's the symbol for this unity feast. All right. And now let's go ahead and get into the history about the language Swahili. Where did this language come from? And how is it spoken? All right. So I hope you guys can see the screen. So let's look at Swahili. Now, what is Swahili, which is also known as Kiswahili? Now, this language is native to Tanzania, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Bajani Islands, South Sudan, Mozambique, Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, Comoros, Mayotte, Zambia, Malawi, and Madagascar. Okay. And the ethnicity is Waswahili. So let's go down into the history. All right, so Swahili, also known by its native name Kiswahili, is a Bantu language and the native language of the Swahili people. Now, who are the Swahili people? The Swahili people are a Bantu ethnic group inhabiting East Africa. Members primarily reside on the Swahili coast, an area encompassing the Zanzibar archipelago, Littoral Kenya, the Tanzania seaboard, and northern Mozambique. The name Swahili is derived from Arabic, okay, which means coasts. All right. So let's go back to the information about the language. All right, so it is a lingua franca of the African Great Lakes region and other parts of East and Southern Africa, including Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, and some parts of Malawi, Somalia, etc. Comorian spoke in the Comoros Islands is sometimes considered a dialect of Swahili, although other authorities consider it a distinct language. Sing is a mixture of Swahili and English, commonly spoken in Kenya and parts of Uganda. All right. The exact number of Swahili speakers, be they native or second language speakers, is unknown and is a matter of debate. Various estimates have put forward which vary widely, ranging from 100 million to 150 million. Swahili serves as a national language of the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, right? Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and South Sudan. Was it Shikomor, an official language in Comoros, and also spoken in Mayotte, is related to Swahili. Swahili is also one of the working languages of the African Union and officially recognized as a lingua franca of the East African community. In 2018, South Africa legalized the teaching of Swahili in the South African schools as an optional subject to begin in 2020. Now, before I go on any further, it was said to be that Swahili is a non-tribal language. Now, what does that mean? That means that a language is not designated specifically to one tribe. Okay, that means multiple tribes, no matter what country they live in, can speak the language. Because as I read the information to you, that it's considered as a national language, and it's going to be considered as one. It's going to be considered as a foundation language of Africa. Okay, because it's non-tribal, so anybody can learn how to speak Swahili. I mean, you can learn how to speak other language, but Swahili will be like the main African language that people will be speaking. You see what I'm saying? So it will be the national language, or it is a national language. All right. So let's continue on with the information. Let's look at the classification. Now, again, Swahili is a Bantu language of the Sabakai branch. In Gathari geographic classification, Swahili is in Bantu Zone G, whereas the other Zabaki languages are in Zone E70, commonly under the name Iyakia. Historical linguists do not consider the Arabic influence on Swahili to be significant enough to classify it as a mixed language. Since Arabic influence is limited to lexical items, most of which have only been borrowed after 1500, while the grammatical and syntactic structure of the language is typically Bantu. All right, so let's look at Sabaki branch. What is the Sabaki branch? And what are the Sabaki languages? All right, so according to this information, the Sabaki languages are the Bantu languages of the Swahili coast, named for the Sabaki River. In addition to Swahili, they include Ilwana and Pokomo on the Tana River in Kenya, Manjikinda, spoken on the Kenyan coast, and Comorian in the Comoro Islands. In Gathari's geographic classification, Swahili is in Bantu Zone G, whereas the other Sabaki languages are in Zone E70, commonly under the name Iyaka. So, and then here are all the languages. All right. So, in addition, there are several Swahili Creoles and pidgins, Kachi Swahili, Kasitila, English, Shing, Shaba, Swahili, Ingwana, and Kikia. All right, so There's various forms of Swahili languages or various dialect of Swahili. That's all it is. Okay, so all right, so let's look at the history. Um, right here, the etymology, origin of the word Swahili is phonetic equivalent in Arabic, coast, broken pearl. Origin. The Swahili language dates its origin to the Bantu people of the coast of East Africa. Much of Swahili's Bantu vocabulary has connates in the Boko, Tatia, and Manjikinda languages, and to a lesser extent, other East African Bantu languages. While opinions varies on the specific, it has been historically purported that about 20% of the Swahili vocabulary is derived from loan words, the majority Arabic, but also other contributing languages, including Persian, Hindustani, Portuguese, and Malay. In the text, early Swahili history reconsidered, however, Thomas Spear noted that Swahili retains a large amount of grammar, vocabulary, and sounds inherited from the Sabaki language. All right. In fact, while taking account of daily vocabulary, using lists of 100 words, 72 to 91% were inherited from the Sabaki language, which is reported as a parent language, whereas 4 to 17% were loan words from other African languages. All right. And only 2 to 8% were from non-African languages, and Arabic loan words constituted a fraction of 2 to 8%. What also remained unconsidered was that a good number of the borrowed terms had native equivalents. The preferred use of Arabic loan words is prevalent along the coast, where natives in a cultural show of proximity to or descended from Arab culture would rather use loan words, whereas the native in the interior tend to use the native equivalents. It was originally written in Arabic script. All right, so that's that information. Now let's skip down. Let's skip down to the colonial period. All right. So right here, it goes into the colonial period, talks about various colonial powers that ruled on the coast of East Africa played a role in the growth and spread of Swahili. With the arrival of the Arabs in East Africa, they used Swahili as a language of trade, as well as for teaching Islam to the local Bantu people. This resulted in Swahili first being written in the Arabic alphabet. The later contact with the Portuguese resulted in the increase of the vocabulary of the Swahili language. Now, before I continue, all right, so as you can see, this right here, this picture right here, it says Swahili is now written in Latin alphabet, introduced by Christian missionaries and colonial administrators. The text shown here is the Catholic version of the Lord's Prayers. So let me show you. So right here is written in Swahili, okay? But it's Latin. All right. And then let me go back up to the very top. Now, as you can see, it's Swahili written in the Arabic script. Right here. Okay, so let's continue. The language was formalized in an institutional level when the Germans took over after the Berlin Conference. After seeing there was already a widespread language, the Germans formalized it as the official language to be in schools. Thus, schools in Swahili are called Schule, from German school, and government, trade, and the court system. With the Germans controlling the major Swahili-speaking region in East Africa, they changed the alphabet system from Arabic to Latin. After the First World War, Britain took over German East Africa, where they found Swahili rooted in most areas. Not just the coastal regions, the British decided to formalize it as a language to be used across the East African region. Although in British East Africa, Kenya, and Uganda, most areas use English and various Noletic and other Bantu languages, while Swahili was mostly restricted to the coast. In June of 1928, an internal territorial conference attended by representatives of Kenya, Tanganyika, Uganda, and Zanzibar took place in Mombasa. The Zanzibar dialect was chosen as standard Swahili for those areas, and the standard orthography for Swahili was adopted. All right. So, and then it goes into the current status. Swahili, peace to the brother in the chat room. Peace, brother. Thank you for coming through. How you doing? I hope everything going well with you tonight. Swahili has become a second language spoken by 10 of millions in 3 African Great Lakes country, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, where it is an official or national language, while being the first language to many people in Tanzania, especially in the coastal regions of Tanga, Pwani, Dar es Salaam, Mtwara, Lindi. In the inner regions of Tanzania, Swahili is spoken with an accent influenced by local languages and dialects, and as a first language for most people born in the cities, whistle being spoken as a second language in rural areas. Swahili and closely related languages are spoken by relatively small numbers of people. Okay, and I already mentioned those countries before, so I ain't gotta mention them no more. The language was still understood in the southern ports of the Red Sea in the 20th century. Swahili speakers may number 120 to 150 million in total. All right. So that's the information on Swahili, and then it goes into the vowel, the consonants, etc. Goes into the orthography. Okay. As you can see, it's Swahili written in Arabic script. All right. So, and then it shows, of course, the Arabic language. All that great stuff. All right. So it then goes into the list of the old dialects. Okay. So let's see. The reference is right here at the bottom of the page. If you want to look up more information and you want to find out more about Swahili, there you go. All right. So let's also go into some more sources. So let's see what this source got to say. Now, this comes from the website called glcom.com, Swahili Language and Culture. All right. As you can see, it says the Swahili language is basically of Bantu African origin. It has borrowed words from other languages such as Arabic, probably as a result of the Swahili people using the Quran written in Arabic for spiritual guidance as Muslims. Okay. As regard the formation of Swahili culture and language, some scholars attribute these phenomena to the intercourse of African and Asiatic people on the coast of East Africa. The word Swahili was used by early Arab visitors to the coast and means the coast. Ultimately, it came to be applied to the people and the language. All right. So let's see what else they talk about. It says spread into the hinterland. For centuries, Swahili remained as the language for the people of the East African coast. Long-time interaction with other people bordering the Indian Ocean spread the Swahili language to the distant places, such as on the islands of Comoro, Madagascar, and even far beyond the South Africa, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates. Trade and migration from the Swahili coast during the 19th century helped spread the language to the interior of particularly Tanzania. It also reached Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and Congo, etc. All right. So that's pretty much backing up the information that was presented in Wikipedia. Okay. So let's go ahead and continue. All right. So here's another source, an article that was written in under the Black Scholar, the Journal of Black Studies and Research, A History of Swahili, Beverly E. Coleman. It was written in 1971. All right. So right here, it goes into that. And let's see what she had to say back then. It says the Swahili language has been accused of being everything from a pidgin and slave language to Ron Karenga's personal tool for cultural nationalism in the United States, with the exception of one insightful article which attempts to clarify the relevance of Swahili to Afro-Americans. All of the popular articles which have come to the attention of most of us have either been written by Europeans or reiterated European opinions on Swahili and why Afro-Americans have generated such a fervor for learning. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go down. What else did this person say back then? Swahili is presently the most widely spoken dialect of the now obsolete Bantu language, in the same sense that English, French, and Spanish and Portuguese are dialects of the now obsolete Latin language. To understand the true significance of this statement, we must first visualize the continent of Africa with its 336 million people. Now, remember, this article was written in 1971. And from the 600 to 1,800 languages and dialects depends on how one defines these terms and their relationship to each other. Approximately 1/5 of this total population inhabited North Africa, north of the Sahara Desert, and speaks languages classified as Afro-Asian, Semitic, Kushite, Ancient Egyptian, and Berber. The remaining 4/5 of the population inhabit the Saharan and Sub-Saharan region speaking languages in any one of the following linguistic category. And then it goes on saying the Sahara Savannah, Niger Congo, etc. It said it is in the Niger Congo category that we find the present group of over 200 Bantu languages or dialects, among which is Swahili. Okay. And it says the word Bantu, literally men or people, was first made use of as a collective linguistic description of most of Africa's sub-Saharan languages by W.H.I. Bleek, who was known as the father of Bantu philology. According to Bleek, the term means par excellent individuals, particularly in opposition to the noun bilungu. So it then goes into the root into or slight variation thereof denotes the species Homo sapien in many of the Bantu languages. Okay, so Abantu, which is Zulu in Azana, South Africa, Batu, Vanu, Ovandu, Ubuntu. It goes on and on, so etc. etc. And then it goes down to Watu, Swahili in East Africa. All right. And then it goes on to say the word Bantu is a linguistic rather than a racial or cultural category. The kinds of cultural similarity or dissimilarity we might find between ethnic groups are not necessarily determined by linguistic grouping. A particular Bantu speaking ethnic group might have more in common with a people whose language is classified as Khoisan, for instance, than it has with another of the Bantu speaking peoples. Therefore, it would be a misnomer to refer to those people who happen to speak Bantu languages as Bantu people. They are African people. All right, so it says this would imply that cultural identity would be ascertained on the basis of linguistic classification. Now, again, this was written by obviously someone who is a historian. Her name was Beverly E. Coleman, and it was written in 1971. Okay, so all right, so that's one information. Then here's another information right here. The name of this book is called The Swahili, Reconstructing the History and Language of an African Society, 800 to 1500. All right, so as you can see, I'm scrolling down. And let's go down to page number 1. All right, so it says Swahili and their history dotted along the eastern coast of Africa from Somalia to Mozambique are a number of old Swahili towns. All right, perched on the foreshore. Perched on the foreshore or on small offshore islands. There are whitewashed houses of coral red masonry crowd around a harbor where a few seagoing the house are tied. Among the coral houses are a number of small mosques where men from the immediate neighborhood gather in their white gowns and small embroidered caps for prayers, and outside of which they gather afterward to discuss town affairs in measured tones. Their wives and older daughters are not to be seen until evening, when, under cover of darkness and their loose flowing black robes, they visit discreetly with their female relatives and friends. All right, so to get the logistics of this, it says most trade in East Africa itself during the first millennium was coasting trade conducted on the beach between seafaring Arab merchants and African residents on the mainland. Only 2 markets towns are known to have existed before 800, but we still do not know where they were located. The first permanent trading settlements that we can identify were established during the 9th century in the Lamu archipelago and on the southern Tanzanian coast at Mafia and Kilwa. All right, so that's some of the information about Swahili. Okay, it's a lot of information. It's a book. Obviously, you can find the PDF if you want to look for it. So the author name is Derek Nurse and Thomas Spear, and it was published by the University of Pennsylvania Press. All right. So that's the information if you want to look up more about the Swahili language. Okay. So anyways, that's it for tonight, for the evening. So that's the information about the Swahili language and Umoja Karamu. If you want to learn more, you can look up the information on Wikipedia. You can also look up the sources that I presented to you. Okay. And some of the old sources that was available. One of them was written in 1971. All right. That went into the concept about Swahili and the Bantu language. And also you can find out the information about Swahili on Wikipedia and look at the reference at the bottom of the page. Okay. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you guys for watching and tuning in. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. That's all I have for today. So please, or excuse me, for tonight. So please be safe, be careful, and until next time, I'll reconnect with you all later with some more information. So until then, take it easy, all right? So may peace be to everybody. And if you just come in, you have to watch the video from the very beginning and see what I'm talking about, all right? So thank you guys so much, and I'm out. Peace.